You don't need a mansion or a Hollywood name to leave behind a story that's more than just fame.
Me to need a will, just a family, or a cat plotting world domination. Welcome to Celebrity Estate Chaos, where we prove a lot of things. Like how estate chaos isn't just for millionaires with private islands, anyone with stuff, relatives, or that one weird collection you think nobody's fighting over. And chances are, they will.
Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive. Wildfire season isn't just arriving. I mean, for many people, it's already here. It's chaotic, it's unpredictable, and honestly, it is absolutely not a vibe. And when that orange glow hits the horizon, the sources we've been diving into show that panic is the default setting for way too many people.
Right, and that panic isn't just, uncomfortable, it's dangerous. It leads directly to chaos, to critical errors, and sometimes, tragically, loss of life.
Yeah. We've spent time with a whole stack of source material for this deep dive, articles, research, and also some really practical, even humor-loaded guides on emergency preparedness. There's an author, Tina Jin, whose work we looked at.
Right, very insightful stuff.
So our mission today is really to cut through the noise, pull out the most important insights from all these sources, and, well, look at what happens when disaster strikes and people they aren't ready.
Exactly. We're trying to pull out the surprising facts, understand the very human reasons why we often fail to prepare, and highlight the essential steps you can actually take right now before the pressure's on.
It's a serious topic, absolutely.
Right.
No question. Safety, lives are on the line. But what's fascinating, and what the sources really, really bring to light, is the often bizarre, sometimes darkly funny.
Oh, definitely.
And just incredibly human chaos that erupts when panic takes over. So we're going to dive into that reality kind of head on to understand its impact.
Okay.
So the core message, it's pounding through all these sources, crystal clear. Wildfires are intensely unpredictable. They move, astonishingly fast.
So fast.
And that window of time you think you have to evacuate is almost always much, much smaller than the reality.
Exactly. We talk about warning times, right? But those can be incredibly short. Fires can jump containment lines, shift direction with the wind, instantly. You might have minutes, not hours. And that compressed time frame, that's where the system, or maybe the lack of a system, just breaks down for people.
And the sources, they don't just talk hypothetically. They provide this laundry list of real-world scenarios that sound almost unbelievable.
Yeah.
But they just underline the sheer unadulterated chaos.
Like that story from British Columbia, a couple fleeing with their toddler, a teddy bear, and a frozen lasagna.
Or frozen lasagna. The sources noted, the lasagna didn't make it through the evacuation.
Probably for the best.
But the teddy bear, deemed a critical emotional support item.
Priorities. They shift, shall we say.
Absolutely. Or, the woman in California who, in the blur of panic, accidentally scooped up and evacuated 3 of her neighbor's cats.
3, who, according to the report, are now just unexpected but apparently peaceful roommates.
It's a very chaotic start to cohabitation, I imagine.
An unplanned expansion of the feline family unit. Then there's the really tragic account from Greece. A man lost his life because he stayed behind to try and pack his wine fridge.
Yeah, that one's cuss. And the fridge, the sources grimly point out, was found intact later. Ugh. Just a stark illustration of, fatal misplaced priorities.
And how about the farmer in Australia? Tried to save his prize goat, Susie, by putting her in his Mini Cooper.
In the Mini Cooper. The report says Susie chewed through the seatbelt.
Of course she did.
But both she and the farmer got out okay. The Mini Cooper, though, total loss.
Less of a getaway car, more like a goat taxi turned snack bar.
Right. You also had the woman in Spain who actually admitted delaying her evacuation because she was applying waterproof mascara.
Waterproof mascara, because that's the priority.
Which naturally melted off instantly in the heat anyway. The fire, it turns out, is unimpressed by eye makeup.
Shocking. And the man in Chile fled his home barefoot, clutching his dog, and, wait for it, a waffle maker.
A waffle maker. His reasoning quoted directly, "I panic cook. It's who I am."
Okay, well, points for self-awareness, maybe?
Maybe. The sources are just full of these little vignettes. Tourists in Italy trying to drag wheeled suitcases full of resort towels and tiny soaps over burning gravel paths.
Oh, I can picture that. And the wildlife ranger in South Africa desperately trying to lead flamingos to safety with breadcrumbs.
Yeah. only to discover flamingos have zero interest in breadcrumbs. Who knew?
Apparently not the ranger in that moment. Tourists in Turkey, too, abandoning everything but their phones, running barefoot with selfie sticks.
Selfie sticks. You gotta document the escape, I guess.
And families in Mexico prioritizing grabbing the good tequila before their irreplaceable photo albums.
Wow. Okay. What's critically insightful here, though, across all these examples, is how this kind of disoriented panic, it doesn't discriminate, right?
Yeah.
Based on wealth, background, location.
No, it hits everyone.
And it consistently forces people into prioritizing the bizarrely trivial over the genuinely essential when, minutes count.
And this leads us right into the human element. And the sources are pretty clear about why we see this pattern of failure. It's not just general panic. Delay. Delay is highlighted as a real killer.
Yeah, that pervasive thought, I'll just grab this one more thing, or, oh, I have a few more minutes.
Exactly. That's what seals people's fate sometimes.
And the statistics are just sobering. One source indicates over 60% of evacuees leave with basically no supplies packed. Nothing.
60%. And a staggering 35% delay leaving for too long. They completely miss their window to get out safely.
Wow.
It's not just forgetting items, it's risking your life because you can't switch from denial to action fast enough.
To really put a human face on this, the sources share these almost painfully relatable stories. People whose preparedness plans or, lack thereof completely unraveled under pressure.
Oh, yeah. Take Eunice, 87 years old. Her designated emergency kit, it was a dusty shoebox.
Okay.
Inside. A ceramic angel, a handful of random buttons, and a Werther's original that had melted onto a crossword puzzle from 1992.
Oh my goodness, that's not ideal. And her plan.
Her plan was to hide in the porcelain bathtub because she thought it was fireproof.
Right, which the sources are very clear, it is not. That doesn't work. And highlighting this basic misunderstanding is important because it's actually more common than you'd think.
Definitely. Then there's the Jackson family. Now, they actually had an emergency plan.
Okay, progress.
But it was meticulously designed for a zombie apocalypse.
Oh, not quite the same thing.
Not even close. A wildfire evacuation, completely unaddressed. Their attempt to leave was just pure pandemonium.
I can only imagine.
Trying to wrestle the toddler into pants while the kindergartner is insisting on packing his entire Lego collection.
Oh, no.
The baby somehow gets tangled in the dog's leash. They reportedly evacuated with one shoe between them, 3 juice boxes, and a foam sword.
A foam sword, okay.
They forgot the diapers, and they forgot the dog.
They forgot the Dolly G.
Twice. They had to turn back twice. A legendary level of chaos just born from a mismatch between the plan and the reality.
Wow. Or Darren, the 32-year-old single guy, he was sure he could just wing it. Just hop in his car and drive away when needed.
The classic wing it plan, which never works.
Right. He finds his gas tank is empty.
Of course.
His power bank for his phone is dead. And in his moment of panic, the bag he grabs, it contains only a Bluetooth speaker, a leftover burrito, and his bewildered pet turtle, Kevin.
Kevin the turtle. 0 essential supplies, maximum vibes, and 1 confused reptile.
Didn't even grab his phone charger.
And the married couple, Cindy and Brian, evacuated in matching housecoats, pulled into the driveway, and then proceeded to have a full-blown argument.
About what?
Whether they needed Brian's external hard drives or the expensive sausages in the fridge.
Hard drives versus sausages. The eternal dilemma.
Cindy grabbed the dog. Brian grabbed the mustard.
Oh, mustard. Okay.
The sources noted that, astonishingly, their marriage survived the incident.
That's the real miracle here.
Their preparedness, however, did not. These anecdotes, they're darkly funny, but they perfectly illustrate how rational thought just dissolves. Basic needs get forgotten when you haven't planned ahead.
It's not just forgetfulness. It's like a breakdown in critical thinking under that kind of stress.
Exactly. And tragically, when that panic hits, animals are incredibly vulnerable. They often become the forgotten victims in the chaos.
The sources really highlight this again and again. Hundreds, sometimes thousands of pets get left behind, simply because owners couldn't find a carrier in time or the pet was terrified and hiding somewhere.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. And the animal shelters in affected areas just become overwhelmed. They're caring for animals who were successfully evacuated but often have burns, smoke inhalation, or just severe trauma.
There's that viral video mentioned in the sources, the golden retriever during a fire evacuation. literally dragging her own leash across the ground and nudging it into her owner's hand.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
As if to say, come on, let's go, I'm ready. She was the calmest one there.
Yeah.
The true emergency coordinator.
A stark contrast to the human panic, for sure. Another example, though, less heartwarming. The man who tried to evacuate his menagerie, a parrot, a hamster, and a snake,
Oh, boy.
by putting all three into a single carrier crate.
Oh, no, that does not sound good.
The sources sadly confirmed the hamster did not survive that particular cohabitation experiment.
Ugh, that's awful.
It underscores a critical point the sources emphasize. If your emergency plan does not explicitly, concretely, and practically include your pets, it's not a complete plan.
Right. You need carriers ready, leashes accessible, food, and a clear idea of where you can actually go that accepts animals. That's huge.
Absolutely critical.
Okay, so given all these examples of what happens when you don't prepare and the frankly absurd things people grab under pressure,
Yeah.
the obvious and crucial question is, what should you actually pack?
Yes. What goes in the bag?
But first, let's just quickly reiterate the don'ts because they're so illustrative of the panic mindset.
Please do. Definitely do not pack the wine collection. Or your favorite pair of flip-flops.
Ooh.
The air fryer, vintage Bordeaux, your fancy garden Crocs.
Crocs.
That USB blender you never use, spa day essentials, your precious sourdough starter.
Not the starter.
Concert ticket stubs from 2005, the waffle maker.
Or waffle maker guy.
The toaster you just cleaned, your artisanal cheese board, the karaoke machine.
Definitely not the karaoke
and
machine.
that giant tub of coconut oil or your novelty pizza cutter. No.
Please, just leave the non-essentials behind.
Okay.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting and practical. Because the sources boil it down to the absolute non-negotiable essentials. The things that should be in a readily accessible go bag right now.
Top of the list, water and snacks. And the sources are clear. They don't mean that stale granola bar from 2018 you found in your glove compartment.
Right.
They mean enough water and actual food for at least 72 hours. Real food.
Okay. Next, medications. This is totally non-negotiable. Allergy meds, inhalers, insulin, EpiPens, any crucial prescriptions or even important over-the-counter meds you rely on. Have a supply ready to go.
Yep, pet supplies,
Yes.
leash, food, and that carrier we mentioned. Know exactly where it is. Don't make yourself dig for it under pressure.
So important. Chargers and power banks for your devices. Your phone is your lifeline, right? But it's useless if it's dead?
Important documents. Copies of IDs, birth certificates, passports, insurance policies. Scan them, save them digitally off-site, absolutely. But also have physical copies in a waterproof folder in your bag.
Good point. ATMs, digital access might not be available.
Exactly, which leads to cash.
Yeah.
A decent amount in small bills. Power outages mean credit card machines, and ATMs are just dead weight.
Okay. Shoes. Shoes you can actually run in or walk long distances in. Let's say it again. Not flip-flops.
Please, no flip-flops.
Not fancy sandals, not high heels. Practical, sturdy, closed-toe shoes.
A change of clothes and basic toiletries. Deodorant, toothpaste, toothbrush. Small things that make a big difference if you're displaced for a few days.
Makes sense. A basic first aid kit and a flashlight. With tested working batteries. Check the batteries.
Crucial. The sources also suggest maybe a small comfort item for children, like a familiar stuffed animal.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe a favorite chew toy or treat for the dog helps reduce stress for everyone.
Good thinking.
Yeah.
And this one surprises people sometimes, but it's essential. Your actual ID, your house, and car keys.
Yeah.
And yes, a physical map.
A paper map.
A map of your area and potential evacuation routes. Because GPS can fail. Cell towers go down, phones die. Knowing the local geography actually matters.
It really does. And the absolute critical insight here, repeated across all the sources, isn't just what to pack. It's when and where you pack it.
Right.
Pack this bag now, today, when things are calm. And keep it somewhere you can literally grab it on your way out the door.
Like by the main exit, maybe in your car.
Yeah.
Just not buried under the Christmas decorations or in the back of some cluttered closet.
Exactly. Accessible.
Okay, the sources also kind of expand this whole concept of preparedness beyond just your household, right? They highlight its broader relevance.
That's a really key point. Preparedness isn't just about your personal to-go bag at home. It applies professionally, too, for businesses, leaders, HR people, caregivers, even entrepreneurs.
Right, like do employees know what their grab-and-go essentials are if the office needs to evacuate suddenly? Is critical business data backed up securely? Maybe off-site, somewhere far from a localized disaster zone?
Are there clear communication plans, remote work protocols? What about plans for assisting vulnerable team members or individuals in your care who might have mobility issues or need specific medical support during an emergency?
Because, as one source very dryly points out, a wildfire doesn't suddenly decide to hold off just because it's payroll day,
Huh, no kidding.
or because the company's critical server happens to be in the basement of the building that's now threatened. Preparedness needs to be integrated into organizational thinking, too.
Definitely. It's a wider issue.
So the overarching message we're pulling from this deep dive
Yeah.
seems, well, undeniable. Panic under pressure is this powerful, chaotic force. And fire. Fire doesn't wait for you to make sensible decisions.
But the good news, and what resources like the ones we reviewed really emphasize, is that preparedness isn't some innate trait you either have or don't. It's a skill. It's a muscle you can develop.
Absolutely. And the sources point to resources, like those emergency preparedness books by Tina Jin we mentioned.
Yeah.
They specifically call out their no BS, humor-loaded approach.
Yeah, making it accessible.
Right, covering preparedness not just for families, but also for caregivers, solo individuals, those notoriously stubborn family members we all know.
I know them.
And yes, very importantly, our pets.
And they also mention resources like the Too Late to Panic podcast, places where you can find more practical information, often delivered with that dose of humor that makes a heavy topic maybe a bit more digestible.
Yeah, definitely helps.
Yeah.
Planning now is truly the only way to avoid the worst of the panic later. It really is the fundamental takeaway, isn't it?
Yeah.
Having that properly thought out, readily accessible go bag ready before the crisis hits.
Yeah.
That's the single most crucial step. It shifts you from being like a victim of circumstance reacting in chaos
Right.
to an active participant who is executing a plan.
It gives you agency. It gives you back some control in a moment where you can feel completely powerless.
Exactly. So based on everything we've explored in these sources today, here's a question from them to leave you with, something to really consider for yourself.
Okay.
If you had to evacuate in 5 minutes, would you be grabbing what matters, or would you be frantically yelling, "Where's the turtle?"
That's a wrap for today's chaos. If you learned something, laughed a little, or now feel slightly more prepared for life's curveballs, we've done our job. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel and follow us on social media. Catch us on Spotify, YouTube, and anywhere podcasts make you rethink your to-do list. Thanks for tuning in. And remember, if it's important and unexpected, we probably cover it. Stay safe, stay curious, and we'll see you next time.